Good morning. I'm here today with Eric Horst, meteorologist with the Millersville University Weather Information Center. We're going to talk about the snow that's falling just behind me outside our windows here in Lancaster County. Eric, I wondered if you could start out by talking about the timing of this morning's storm, when it began, when it's reaching its peak, and when it will end.
Yeah, well, Cindy, it really moved in right on schedule, about 6 to 6:15 a.m. It started to snow in Lancaster, and it came down heavily from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, right when people are heading out on the road. So it's really one of those worst-case scenarios for the morning drive is when you have steady or even heavy snow moving in. And PennDOT was out there, but when it's coming down at 1 inch or 2 inches an hour, you can't really keep up with it. So it was a treacherous morning commute, really one of the worst you'll see in this area.
I noticed it took me over an hour, almost an hour, 15 minutes to drive from Lidditz to Lancaster this morning. Why was it so bad? Hills seemed to be particularly treacherous for people. Was it that the ground was already cold and they couldn't get traction, or what caused the problems with the commute this morning?
Well, it has been cold the past couple of days. Temperatures were only around 30 or 32 degrees when it started, so it was barely below freezing. But often it's that first half an inch on the roads. The first few cars go by and pack that snow down, and you create kind of a icy bond to the road, and then you put a little more snow on top of it, and it's just tough to stick to until you get a lot of salt and cinders down there. And again, PennDOT was out, but it takes time for their chemicals to really work and get mixed up. And I would imagine as we head into the midday hours and the snow tapers off, the driving conditions will improve rapidly. But certainly this morning into the mid-morning hours, it's tough travel out there.
Is the worst of it over, or we still have some to go?
Yeah, pretty close. This is not a big nor'easter or anything like that. In fact, there's hardly even a low-pressure center on the weather map to point to. This snow is being driven by a potent jet stream disturbance, and this type of snow event evolves very quickly. Really, they almost always run their course in about 6 hours. So since it was in here at 6 a.m., it should be out of here by noontime. In fact, the steady snow that's falling out there right now at 9 a.m. will probably begin to taper off around 10 a.m. It will become less intense the next couple of hours, and then just kind of flurries as we head after lunchtime. And maybe by late afternoon, the sun might even peek out, right before sunset.
That's still snowing pretty heavily. What do you think the final accumulations will be, and will they be consistent across the county, or will more areas see more and other areas see less?
Yeah, well, the heaviest snow bands set up kind of in that Route 30 corridor from Lancaster across to York and then to the south of that line. So I think the southern half of the county likely ends up with 5, maybe 6 inches. As you head north, the snow is less intense. For example, right now at 9 a.m., we've measured about 4 inches here at Millersville. Up in Harrisburg, not even had an inch yet. So that northwestern part of Lancaster County, and even as you head up towards the Furnace Hills, they may only end up with, say, 1 to 3 inches. And again, while the southern half of the county could very well end up with 5, maybe 6 inches. So, our projections yesterday were for 2 to 5 inches across the county, and for the most part, that's going to work out. With, like I said, 2 inches maybe in the northern, right up near the Lebanon-Dauphin County border, 5 inches south of Route 30.
Now, it looks like cold air is coming in behind the storm, and then we have another chance for some messy weather this weekend. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, this is a very fast pattern. Things evolve quickly. High pressure will build in very briefly tonight. Skies will clear just for a few hours, but with the fresh snow cover, temperatures will plummet. It'll get down into the teens tonight, maybe even low teens in some of those outlying valleys. One important thing, any standing water or slush this afternoon will freeze, very quickly this evening. So people will want to get their sidewalks, their driveways cleaned up this afternoon because it'll turn into an icy mess this evening if they don't. Tomorrow, sun to start, clouds will increase. There's actually an Arctic front coming through tomorrow evening, so there could be a snow shower overnight tomorrow night. Shouldn't amount to much, maybe a coating in a few spots. But more notable, the Arctic air behind that front, the coldest of the season. So Thursday, we're looking at high temperatures only in the low 20s, wind chills in the teens. Then you have the snow that's on the ground. It's going to be a very wintry day, no doubt about it. The storm you mentioned, the next real threat comes over the weekend. Still a bit uncertain how it's going to evolve. It looks like one low will cut to the west, maybe another develops along the coast. That's a classic setup for a wintry mix. So sometime Saturday night, I would expect a wintry mix of precipitation. You'll have to check back with me, say Thursday, for me to nail down the details for you.
So the snow that we are seeing outside the window isn't going to go anywhere for the next couple of days at least. We're not going to see it melt.
No, it's going to stick around. I would suspect that by Saturday and Sunday, temperatures will be above freezing, maybe 35 to even 40 degrees, so there will be some melting off. But also over the weekends when we talked about that next storm potentially moving in with a wintry mix, I don't think it's an all-snowstorm, so if we get some ice or rain, that'll kind of melt the snow or pack it down. And but yeah, we're going to have snow on the ground for at least a few days here. And I'll tell you, even looking ahead to next week, I don't see any real warm weather. The cold air, the Arctic air will relax for a few days, but then rebuild. And if you want to look ahead to Christmas, I think the 15 days between now and then look to be pretty active in terms of storm track. There'll be cold air available from the north. Certainly at this time, can't rule out more snow between now and Christmas.
Well, I want to look ahead to Christmas. So tell me a little bit what you think. I know that's a long way off in terms of forecast, but any ideas about what we can expect for that week or that time frame?
No, I can't give you details. 15 days away is just too far out to give crisp details. I mean, I can tell you that what is average for Christmas is a high temperature of 40 degrees and a low temperature of about 24 degrees. Now, whether this will be an average Christmas day or not, who knows? But there's a lot of Arctic air across Canada. There continues to be cross-polar flow of the jet stream, feeding cold air from literally the North Pole down into Canada. And that means we will see, several more shots, I believe, of some pretty cold air between now and the end of the month. Just how those cold shots time out with a passing storm next week or the following week, it's impossible to say right now. So, and those are the types of details that when it comes to an event, you really, until the last 3 or 4 days, you can't really nail things down too much.
Could you talk a little bit about overall what you're thinking this winter? You had said before you think it's, I think you had mentioned it's going to be some colds and some warmer air, but it's going to average out to be about an average winter in terms of temperature. Do you want to talk about snowfall? What can we look forward to this winter?
Yeah. Well, we've certainly got off to a snowy start here with now 2 snow events, 2 measurable snowfall events. And the winter outlook I put out, actually I gave it to PennDOT back in October already so they could do some planning, and I reiterated it at the start of December, is that I think this is going to average out to be kind of a normal Lancaster County winter. Normal snowfall here is between 20 and 30 inches. I still kind of think that's where we'll be. The fact we got off to a pretty quick start, perhaps we'll be closer to the 30 end of that range than the 20 end. What I don't see is it being a hyperactive, super snowy winter like 4 years ago when we had 72 inches combined for the whole winter season. That was an El Nino winter, and we'd still the Pacific Ocean is currently in its neutral phase in terms of the sea surface temperatures. That's the most reliable indicator when it comes to wintertime patterns, is what is going on in the Pacific. And when the Pacific's in a neutral phase, it's kind of there's not much of a signal for winter weather here in North America. I mean, it makes it kind of an anything goes type of winter. And therefore, the pattern we're currently in, the pattern we saw in November, where we had cold shots that gave way to a few warm days, and then the cycle repeated, I think that's perhaps the storyline of the winter ahead, is a temperature roller coaster ride where you get these Arctic shots that last 2, 3, 4 days, but then the cold air relaxes, milder air works in for a few days, you melt the snow off, maybe you get a day or two in the 40s or even near 50, and then the next Arctic shot rolls in. So that kind of temperature roller coaster ride, you average it out for the whole season, it might be near normal, statistically, even though the way you got there was through a bunch of ups and downs. So, so I'd say, this might be kind of a run-of-the-mill winter for Lancaster.
Remind our readers what the lowest snowfall amount has been in this county and what the highest. You mentioned the 72 inches. Is that our record snowfall?
Right. That was 4 winters ago, the winter of 2009, 2010. We had those 3 big storms that winter, and it totaled a little over 6 feet of snow altogether. The least snowy winter on record, I don't remember the exact, I believe it was in the early 70s, around 5 or 6 inches. Of course, last winter we only had 11 inches. But that's actually not too uncommon. About 1 out of 3 winters here only produces around a foot of snow. So there's kind of, and those are typically, by the way, La Nina winters. When the Pacific is in its La Nina phase, we tend to not see a lot of snow here, and that's kind of what we were in the last 2 winters. This winter we're in neutral phase. And the way we're starting to see maybe some warming in the Pacific Ocean, that could lead us to potentially an El Nino by next winter, which would mean perhaps an even snowier winter next year.
Okay, Eric, what's your favorite snow day activity? What do you like to do when the snow falls?
I like to go outside and enjoy the beautiful scenery and shovel a little snow. I'm still not a snowblower person. I'm old school. I prefer the quiet and the exercise, and I don't like that chainsaw noise that snowblowers make. Though with a bad back, I do appreciate why some people need them, though.
I have 3 teenagers. That's why I don't need a snowblower.
Yeah. I have 2 boys, so same deal. Hopefully they're shoveling right now since there's no school.
Okay. Hey, thanks for joining us today. It's Cindy Stauffer with Lancaster Newspapers. I was joined by Eric Horst, Millersville University Weather Information Center meteorologist, and we'll catch you the next time. Thank you.
Okay, care, Cindy.
Bye-bye.